Evening. Thank you all for joining us for another Tuesday Talk. And I'm Carolyn Kane, and I am going to be your moderator for tonight. So thank you for joining us. I'm really excited about the talk tonight. We have an important topic to discuss, which is jobs in the economy in Ohio. So this week, our special guest is Tom Jackson, who is a candidate for the Ohio State Senate. And our speakers, between Tom and Monique, they offer us a very wide-ranging perspective on jobs in the economy in Ohio through their professional experience. And we have ranges from nonprofit, government, and the private sector. So this is going to be a great talk, but before I get to the speakers, I want to give just a little bit of information about the broadcast. If you have questions for Monique or Tom, please feel free to put them in the comments and we'll try to get to them during the live broadcast. Or since this will be on Facebook after the live broadcast, if you'd like to add your questions to the comments, we'll try to get those addressed as well at some point in the future. So now let's talk about the candidates. First, Monique is a candidate for the Ohio House in District 16. Monique used to work at Highland Software in Sales and Marketing, which is where I met her. And she was also elected to City Council, where she served for 4 years. And in addition to that, she has had volunteerism and activism for the Democratic Party throughout her entire career. So welcome, Monique.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for doing this, Carolyn. Great to see you. And I'm excited to talk to Tom tonight.
It's going to be a really great talk. I'm excited for the both of you. So here as our special guest is Tom Jackson. Tom Jackson has worked in the nonprofit industry as part of Close Up Foundation. And he also worked for Progressive Insurance and now currently works for Leverity Insurance, and also brings to us his experience as a member of the Chamber of Commerce in Solon. So welcome, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me, everybody. I'm excited to be here. I can't believe I'm on Tuesday Talks with Monique.
We're excited about it. Another really cool installment. I mean, after all, it's the election's coming up quick, so we really need to get to these issues that are important to all of us. And that kind of brings me to where the intersection between what Monique is doing as a candidate for the House and Tom's campaign, actually. So Monique is running for House District 16, and Tom is running for the Senate District 24. And there's actually a fair amount of overlap there. And I know it overlaps where I live in Westlake. So where else do you guys have overlap between your two districts?
I'll let you take that. You want to talk about where your district runs? It's a big district, and thanks to gerrymandering, it's a funny shape. So yeah. I think Tom should tell us all about the joy of the shape of his district, what it includes.
Yeah, so I think just to back up a little bit, it puts it in perspective when you realize that there are 99 members of the Ohio House, and there are 33 senators. So you have a 3-to-1 ratio of House members to senators. And those districts align that way. So there are 3 House districts that sit within the Senate district. So on the west side of town where you guys are, House District 16, running all the way out to the lake in Bay Village and Westlake. But then it comes down through the valley, through Berea and Strongsville, so that's House District 7, and then it crosses over into the valley and over to the east side of town, into the Chagrin Valley, where I am in Solon, and goes up the entire east side of the county. So it almost forms like a perfect little outline of the county from the west side across the south and over to the east. So my Senate district is roughly 3 times the size of Monique's House district.
It's a big job, and I give you so much credit for running in such a big district, such a huge area that you have to cover, Tom. And I'm really thankful that you took on the challenge. I think it's great, and it's great for us as voters to have an option and an alternative to what is, what we have right now for Senate representation. And actually, Carolyn, if you don't mind, I'd love to jump right into talking about sort of more about why you took on this challenge and what the contrasts are between you and the incumbent.
Yeah, sure. That's a great first question. So the answer is simply because of what's going on and who the incumbent is, right? So we don't have very good representation in the Ohio Senate. So the more that the Republicans pull the party to the right in Ohio, the less it reflects the constituents in this House district. And our current senator is a part of the leadership. So he's part of the problems that we see down there. Uh, he's enabled others to represent the worst that we've seen down there. And and after working on other people's races over the years and seeing the impact that an individual or a few individuals can have in a race, uh, seeing the things that our senator was championing in the Senate and what was coming out of the state house in general, um, it made me take a really hard look at this race last year. And in talking to a lot of people across the county, people over here on the east side, people on the west side, uh, this is a race that is winnable. This represents the districts, the suburbs that have been running away from the Republicans. Uh, and this is all within Cuyahoga County, which has traditionally been a pretty reliable Democratic seat. And just due to the gerrymandering back in 2010, enabled this to be held by Republicans for so long. But the voters' behavior has changed, and I think the priorities need to change. And in order to do that, we need to change some of the people. Uh, so I decided that the status quo wasn't good enough, and sometimes you just need to step up and be that leader that's going to bring about that change. But I also think the voters are ready for it. I think we've had poor representation, and I think the people are ready for that change.
You know, Tom, we originally thought that maybe we would have Carolyn give a little bit about your background and what led you to this point. But I heard that there was just a little microphone problem there. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us about your background and your bio and what got you here.
Yeah. So I ended up here in Northeast Ohio over 20 years ago, working for Progressive Insurance. So at the time, I was living and working in Washington, D.C., and I helped them break into the DC metro market. And on that management track, it led to an opportunity at the corporate headquarters. And so in 1999, I took a management job at the corporate level, and they moved my family and I here uh, from Washington. So I had ended up in Washington working at a non-for-profit in education. And the name of the organization is called the Close-Up Foundation, and it still exists today. And the main focus of the Close-Up Foundation is to bring high school students and teachers to Washington to study how the government works close up. So they would have a chance to meet with their representatives if they were in town. They'd have a chance to visit the Supreme Court if it was in session. But they also got to meet media people, policy people, and spend time using the DC area as the classroom. So, um, that's where I got my start. That led to my lifelong interest in public policy. I met a woman when I was there, and we got married and had kids, and uh, Progressive offered a great opportunity at that point in my career to make a change. Uh, and I was with Progressive for over 16 years. So for the last 13 years, uh, I've been working in a small business serving the insurance needs directly of over 200 clients, whether that's families or small businesses. So I took that corporate experience and translated that into the retail and direct risk management and insurance placement for individuals and businesses. So I've been here now over 20 years. My kids are graduates of the public schools. They're graduates of public universities. We've been very happy in this area, and I'm really excited about you picking up the mantle out there to run in that House seat, and to see just a lot of energy across the state in trying to reverse some of the the issues and the policies that have been put in place by Republicans over the last 25 years. And if we've seen anything over the last couple of months, it's just been a tremendous betrayal of the public trust. One of the biggest corruption scandals in the state's history. All led by folks embedded in single party rule in the state house. So we need to change that.
Well, I agree, and it's hard. It's hard to run against an incumbent. You and I are both doing that, but I think this is a change election year. There's a reason you and I are running, because we want change. And I know that voters want change too. And I really do believe in the saying that we get the government that we deserve. And so people like us have to step up and run, and everybody else has to be involved in every way possible. And so I think that that is going to result in something better in November this year. I'm optimistic about that. And again, I do appreciate that you've taken the risk. What's one of the top priorities you'd like to work on should you be elected to the seat and defeat this incumbent?
So, I talk about a little bit on my website, on why I decided, and I actually keep the Plain Dealer newspaper here right at my desk because, it was one of those moments where you decide, you just can't sit back anymore. So, there's a couple issues, but the two that are the juxtaposition on the front page was after one of the school shootings out in California. So we've had our own school shootings here in Ohio. Um, the Parkland shooting in Florida was in schools very much like our suburban schools here. Um, but it was that shooting in California last year in Santa Clara. And there's the pictures of the kids with their hands on their heads, heavily armed police officers escorting them to the buses. So you've got education and uh, uh, public safety, splashed in that picture right there. And then above the fold to the right was an article about how the House was passing a 6-week abortion ban in the state of Ohio. So I'm looking at just this top of the newspaper, and we've got issues here in public schools. We've got issues here with unnecessary gun violence, and we've got issues where we treat women and prevent them from getting full access to health care. And it was really kind of those three images that sealed it for me. But I had started to get involved in state government and paying attention really because of the school funding issue in Ohio. Buying a house here in Solon, having my kids as part of the school here, uh, I came to notice that every 3 or 4 years there was another levy being presented to the public, which is in essence the property owners raising taxes on themselves to support the schools. And I thought that was a little strange the first time it happened, but I'm like, okay, maybe this happens. And then it just kept happening like on a cycle, every few years. Um, and that's when I started paying more attention, probably about 10 years ago, to what goes on down in Columbus. Uh, and then when I worked on Phil Robinson's race in 2018 and the work that he's done over the last couple of years, and hearing him say, uh, to champion, those same issues on the House side, they just need help over in the Senate. 73% of the seats are held by one party. So they don't even need to invite the Democrats in the room to get anything done. There's really a shutout there. So we need some people down there that are going to champion, fair constitutional school funding. So that would be my number one issue. We could probably go down a list of a bunch of them, but I know you also want to talk about jobs and the economy. So
Mhm.
you tell me a little bit about your top issues.
Yeah. So, well, absolutely, fixing school funding is right there at the top. I've seen the same things. I think that the way that we fund schools, we know is unconstitutional. Our Supreme Court here in Ohio, our state Supreme Court, has been telling us that for, I think, 26 years. And the majority in control of our government has done nothing about it. And what what that's doing is it's continuing disparities in the way that we fund schools, but it's also for even the best school districts like the one you live in, #1 in Cuyahoga County over there in Solon every year. And then over here in my district, Rocky River has been #2 right behind you for a lot of the time. But even in the best districts, there will be a negative effect eventually by using this system, because tax fatigue, voter, levy fatigue is going to set in. And it's so important for the future of our state, and for the future of our economy to be a great place, to be seen as a great place to live, to be seen as a top ranked state in all the areas that matter to people's day-to-day lives. Where are they going to send their kids to school if they move here and start a business here and put down roots here? Is it going to be a place that has a thriving economy? All these things go hand in hand. You can't have somebody wisely once told me back when I was on city council, there's no such thing as a thriving city without a thriving school district. Think of one, you can't. And so I would say the same for our state. We have to have well-funded schools in order to have highly ranked, successful schools. And when I say well-funded, I just mean sufficiently funded to provide modern education. And so it's not a question of just throwing money at the problem. To me, it's a question of fixing the way that we do that we fund our schools. So I'm right there with you. It's a top issue, and people move to communities like ours because of the schools. And we have to maintain the excellence, and you can't do that if people are using, outdated technology, outdated books, if we don't have the right staffing. And of course, now in the time of COVID, my belief is that the safest way for us to operate is in smaller groups, and that takes more staff, more sanitation. When we get to the point where schools do reopen, and many of our schools are starting the year in a remote learning mode, a virtual learning mode, at least mine is. And but many families need and want their children to be in the classroom. There are so many reasons for children to be, having those social emotional opportunities. But it has to be safe, and that requires funding. And we've heard some schools say that just for the sanitation, just for the hand sanitizer, they might spend $1 million in the coming school year. So funding is crucial for quality.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know it, but the city of Solon is actually the second largest job hub in Cuyahoga County. So besides the city of Cleveland, there's more jobs hubbed here in Solon than any other community. So when business people are coming here and looking at Solon as a place to run their business, one of the things that we were really concerned about over the last couple of years has been all the help wanted signs that are out in front of the buildings. So whether that's in retail or in the more industrial and manufacturing areas, those business people, those were the first questions they were asking folks at the chamber or the real estate agents, was what's going on here, with all these help wanted signs. So we have that gap between, what people are learning in college prep in the schools here, versus what the jobs are right in our neighborhoods. So we do need to address in our education, the needs of the workforce in the state. So I've been very fortunate that my kids have launched their careers in Ohio. But I know that if you talk to 5 of your friends, you're going to find at least 2 or 3 that their kids are landing somewhere else to launch their careers. So we do need to look at that opportunity to fill the skills gap here in Ohio. And so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I certainly do, but I don't think we want to get too distracted by the great places to live and work that are in your district and my district. But we really have to look at the needs now and the needs in the future of the economy that's going to keep people wanting to live here.
Absolutely. So So, well, let's talk about the future of work then. So we've talked about preparing our students for, preparing our future workforce. We've talked about making Ohio an attractive place to open a business and to sort of put down roots and start your family. One thing that I like to think about is, what could become the in-demand jobs of the future, and how can we support industry here in Ohio in order to make sure that those jobs are here in our state. And so one thing that I often think about is the future of sustainability, green energy, and manufacturing to support those trends. I would love to see Ohio leverage its deep experience in manufacturing to make sure that we're at the forefront of keeping all of those jobs in our state around whatever the trends are for the future, around whether it's supporting the growing solar energy field, whether it's supporting wind technology and building wind turbines. We know how to build things in Ohio, and I hope that never changes. I'm very proud of that, and so I think that there's an opportunity to possibly incentivize companies. If it's going to grow jobs and it's going to give us a return on investment, then that's the kind of situation where I think a tax credit or some sort of incentive is worth it. For me, what I don't think is worth it is in the Ohio code that we have now. In the past several years, we've given tax breaks to small companies that are defined as companies that are not growing jobs. They're sole proprietorships. And I certainly see the value, of course, of that kind of small business as much as many small businesses. But for us, from a public policy standpoint, I would prefer to see us investing public dollars into some kinds of businesses that will give us back more jobs, and as a result, in the long run, more tax revenue, more income tax. And I'm curious to know what you think about some of those things, Tom.
Yeah, I see the corruption that came out over the last couple of years with the current leadership down there is really being just very backwards thinking. We had put in some incentives for new energy, and that House Bill 6 that's been caught up in the first energy scandal really gutted those standards. So you were not going to move those industries to include the new energy sources, and instead we went backwards. Um, there's a saying that it's easier to buy a state legislature than it is a state legislator, and that apparently is true here in Ohio. So in order to break the grip of the fossil fuel industry on the state house, you need to bring new people down there. That's the only way to do it. We need to just vote out the old and vote in the new. So we had actually made some progress in Ohio, and you're exactly right. We have the manufacturing capability, we have the manpower, we have the brain power to move into that new energy sector, and instead we got pulled backwards, by the lobbyists, by the fossil fuel industry that may have a small subsidy in renewables or new energy, but that's not their main business. So again, to change those priorities, sometimes you need to change the people, and there are those emerging businesses here. They just need a little bit of help, and I really like your idea of incentivizing, those new growth sectors instead of just giving these tax cuts to those folks that can influence the decision makers in Columbus, because it's not forward thinking. It's whoever's first in line, whoever has the biggest handout, gets the attention, and that's not serving the public. That's serving those interests that have supported you and have pumped tens or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, into getting people elected and maintaining that status quo in Ohio. So we had made that progress, and then it got ripped out of the code. So we have to find those innovative ways to incent people to go to those areas and to build those jobs. So instead of giving it away on the front end, incent those companies and give them the break when they do create those jobs, as their payrolls increase, uh, as those job numbers increase. So um, we need to be able to fight against the corruption, and we need to be able to fight for the new industries and the good jobs that people are going to want to have now and years from now.
I totally agree. You are saying that as a small business person yourself. So, here you are with this sense of civic duty. You're running for office. You understand what the public good, how the public good comes into play with these kinds of questions about tax incentives. And I think that that's just a really healthy attitude. And I know that being a small business person is not easy. And, I sort of talked about a moment ago what I think doesn't work to help our economy as a whole, in terms of what looks on the surface like a way to support a small business. I would like to know from you as a small business person, how can we invest in small businesses, and what does work, what would help? um, I, so you've got that firsthand experience, and I just love
Yes.
what you have to say about it.
Yeah, so everything's just a little more magnified in a small business, right? In a big business, if one or two people don't come in that day, you could probably cover for it. But everything is just so much more magnified in a small business. So the challenges that families in Ohio face, uh, let's take childcare for example. So there are plenty of people across the workforce that are of childbearing age who have kids who need those options in order for them to be productive in the workplace. Uh, so lack of accessible and affordable childcare has a huge impact on a small business owner when you're losing good workers or you can't find good workers because there are other things preventing them from being in the workforce. So the things that affect families in Ohio affect small business in Ohio. So if you have crumbling roads and bridges and infrastructure, um, that makes it difficult for us to do our business, to get around. I'm in a service industry, so I work with business owners across Cuyahoga County and across the state. So I hear from them, about their challenges and about their dead zones when it comes to internet accessibility, or when it comes to, my workers, they need 20 minutes to get off the ramp here before they can get, onto the job site here in Solon because of the traffic congestion. So all the things that affect people and challenge them are the issues that small business people have to address on a daily basis. And uh, take healthcare. That's something that falls on business owners to provide, that people look for as a benefit. So we end up trying to be very competitive around offering those benefit packages. So, where people want to live because of the schools, do they have enough services for their families so that they can be productive during the workday? Can they provide for their family and can they get around? Um, all of those things affect the small businesses in much greater ways than it does, a big business like Progressive or the Cleveland Clinic, uh, you know, those bigger employment centers. Um, so, in the era of COVID, we had a hard stop where, we were an essential business, but we couldn't be in the office. So we had to convert immediately to, at home. Um, and that might have been good for us because it forced us to do it, and we had to figure it out. And it's going to be difficult to go back. That's something else now we got to work into that workplace and manage with our employees. Um, so all of those things are just magnified when you're talking about a 20-person office instead of a 200 or a 2,000 person office.
Absolutely. Um, and you talked a little bit about infrastructure as a piece of that, the importance of strong infrastructure, roads, and accessibility, and internet access in every part of the state. I think those are other examples of great places for us to put our public dollars every time, because not only does it help to support, so, building businesses, some of the white collar jobs, but it also is providing, more construction, more building. That means more construction jobs, more jobs for skilled trades. And again, kind of coming full circle, that's what we do so very well in Ohio. And so we know that we have a gap between the folks who are retiring from the skilled trades, and already just right now with our current level of building and construction, how many folks are coming in to be able to fill those jobs. We know it's not enough, and so it's important for us to think about what are the public projects that we really need to do to support business growth, but also increase job opportunities for workers. So all these things are so intertwined, and I love that from your perspective you see it all every single day. I feel like, now that we've covered some of the jobs of the future, we've talked about what some of the issues are that you'd like to work on, as far as school funding, and some of those things. Before we run out of time, I'd like to see if we could take a few questions from some folks who are watching. I know we do have a handful of people, and I think that's great. I love that people are taking time out of a beautiful night to be with us and learn about, what's going on in this election cycle. So, Carolyn, I would love it if you would help us moderate and find us some questions that people have on their minds in the audience.
Absolutely. Thank you, Monique. We do have a fair amount watching tonight, and so I think that a shout out to all the people who are joining us live is just makes this that much more interactive. And we had some comments, but I think that one of the comments lends itself really well to a question. So Dana just wanted to comment about how you'd mentioned that we need to keep people here, but also bring in more talented people to build a more diverse workforce. And so I just wanted to turn that into a question and ask you where you see the opportunities that we might have in Ohio to attract individuals into our state, in order to help build those businesses.
Well,
You know,
I have thoughts, and I'm happy to jump in. But Tom, if you want to start, I don't mind letting you.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One is, our current national immigration policy is getting in the way. So I can tell you firsthand that the hiring managers that I still know over at Progressive, had to have some difficult conversations over the past couple of years, where people maybe took a job in Toronto instead of in Cleveland, because of our national policy. Uh, Clearly this country has been built on immigrant talent. Uh, Clearly that's still, if you look at just the college ranks in the United States, there's so much talent coming in from overseas. So we should be a welcoming city, and we're going to see cities like Akron, who are a little bit more desperate. They're going to find the ways to attract that immigrant workforce, and now that it used to be more low skilled work, and now it's high skilled work as well. So we need to keep our eye on the prize there, and not shoot ourselves in the foot because of some outdated policies that affect us on a national level, as well as locally. And we're very fortunate to have the colleges and the healthcare system that's really pulling in a lot of that innovation. But as you brought up earlier, Monique, the manufacturing sector, has so much talent and innovation embedded in it as well. So I think if we can just keep creating those jobs, people are gonna want to come to an interesting city with a great quality of life with so many options. Um, I do have some concerns that our state government has pulled so far to the right that it could hurt us. We saw what happened in North Carolina, where the NCAA pulled out. I would hate to to see that we have such regressive social policies that people get turned off from Ohio. So
Mhm.
that is one of my concerns, and so I do think there's plenty of room for a more progressive agenda in the state house.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Having worked for a tech company, I think about the possibilities in that field for growth. High tech can be a great field for a person without a college degree. If that person is a talented programmer, that person has a job in tech. There, you know, talent will not be turned away because of a lack of a bachelor's degree in that field. And so, but then the question is, do the workers want to stay here who have those skills, and or do they want to come here? And I'm right there with you. I think that, as we think about large tech companies expanding and opening, whether it's distribution centers for Amazon, or whether it's a data center for Facebook, those are the kinds of companies that are going to take a hard look at how their employees are treated when they get here. And if our state looks like it's not a welcoming place and not an inclusive place, we're not going to be at the top of the list. And we can't afford to risk that because of some silly culture wars. Not to mention the fact that it's just wrong to make it to allow discriminatory policies that are stuck in the past to really reflect our values in our state code. So I think
And
those are really.
yeah, I think I think those employment centers would agree with us, right? They would say we need to be more reflective of people and of our population. So why be so regressive when people are truly much more open and accepting? So the workplace needs to be there. So I think your employers know that.
Right, right. And we do have so many things going for us, and so we just need to move past some of the things that are holding us back in those areas. I would love to hear some other ideas about what people are thinking about who are watching right now.
Yep. So anybody out there who has comments and you want to give Monique and Tom your ideas of, how we could be building the economy and supporting businesses in Ohio, put those comments below. We did have another question. If you guys are ready for another one, obviously the COVID crisis is at the top of everybody's mind. And the question just is, do you see more ways? Do you see ways that the legislature in Ohio could be supporting businesses more at this point in time, and individuals more, as we have people who might be losing jobs or having to take time off to support their families? Is there a role for the House and the Senate and how to support everybody during this kind of crisis? Because it's not going away. So hopefully when your terms start, that would be an area you'd have to look at as well.
Well, one thought that I'm having, Tom, is the way that our unemployment system works, in terms of applying for unemployment, for folks who have lost their jobs. It shouldn't become a full-time job to search for employment. That should be an easy process. And we can do more, certainly at the state level, to make that happen. What sort of jumps to mind for you, Tom?
Yeah, there's so many things wrapped up in that question. State budgets need to be balanced. We don't have that option that the federal government has. So it comes down to priorities. So the unemployment process has been underfunded for decades. So you're just seeing that exposed in this crisis. But I do think there is a place, and I do think our leadership in the state legislature, to a large degree, has failed. In order to get back to work, in order to get back to school, workers and employers, they need to feel safe. They need to have confidence that what they're doing is going to keep their customers safe, their workers safe, and those families safe. Because if not, people are going to vote with their feet, and they're just not going to show up. I mean, you got people choosing to keep their kids home and doing the virtual learning. You have people putting pressure on their employers to work from home. Uh, so without the confidence to move forward, we are going to just limp along for who knows how long. So the role of this of the government should be, to provide some leadership, to talk about the things that we need to do to build that confidence. So bickering about face masks is a waste of time. Chasing out your health director in the middle of a health crisis, may not have been the best play by the majority party in Columbus. We need some confidence. We need some agreement on those steps to go forward. And until we have that, it's going to be a struggle to get all parts of the society functioning again.
Absolutely. Amen to every single thing you said. Leadership, consistency, clear, a clear plan. Those things are extremely helpful to build confidence and thereby stabilize the economy. And so, we need responsible leaders who care about following data, who are responsible about how they're directing public money. All of that comes into play, especially in a crisis time like this. And unfortunately, we have a shortage of that in the supermajority who's in control of our government. And so one more time, as we sort of wrap up, just thank you so much, Tom. As a small business person, it's not like you don't have enough to do. You've got your hands full, and yet you're taking on this extra challenge to help create better government in our state. And so I hope that I will get to see you become my next state senator. I'm very excited to be in your district, very excited to be running alongside you. And looking forward to having us both do work as I run for state representative in these next, less than 80 days. How many days is it, Tom? Do you know the
Oh,
exact amount? You
it
probably
was
do.
70, 75, 76, something like that.
It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
I'm
final.
trying to I'm trying to stay away from the counter. That's a tough one. But I'm very glad that you're in this race and you're in it for the right reasons, and you're doing the work that you need to do, to win that seat. And so for me to have you, in my district working as hard as you are coattails for me. So you and I should be working hand in glove, over the next 70 something days. And I think we give people the information. We talk about the issues. We let them know that we care about those kitchen table issues that are important to them, that make it important to us. And we've got a really good chance to have an impact and to do some real good for the people of Ohio.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to being out there on the campaign trail more with you in these last days.
Okay.
Carolyn, thank you so much for moderating and making everything run smoothly. Tom, I really enjoyed talking with you. For folks who want to volunteer with me and Tom, we will be out, we hope, in the next few weeks together over on this side of Tom's district, on my side of town. And we'll need lots of volunteers to help us hang door hangers. And we're not going to be doing what campaigns have done in the past, where there was knocking on doors and talking to voters at the door, because we know that social distancing is important and protecting everyone's health, volunteers and voters at the door, is extremely important. But we will wear masks, and we will be out in neighborhoods sharing information about who we are and why we're running, and just leaving that note at the door for folks to find. And we would love to have you join us and have your help. This is a great experience and a great way to be involved in shaping your state government and making sure that it represents you. And so please reach out to us. You can go to my website, moniquesmith.com. Tom, what's your website if people want to learn more about how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, it's Tom Jackson for Ohio.
Okay. Is that FOR or the number 4?
No, it's FOR. It's
Okay.
Tom Jackson for Ohio. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Every campaign's different with that. Sometimes it's a number 4. So please come out, meet us in person. We promise to stay 6 feet back. When we talk to you, we'll be wearing our masks, but we'll be out there doing the work, and we'd love to have you with us. Carolyn, thanks again for keeping this going.
Been great hearing your answers. And I just want to remind everybody to make your voting plan now, because of everything that's going on, whether you are requesting your absentee ballot or whether you just have a plan for early voting, whatever that might be, just make that plan now. It's so important for us to go vote and make sure we make a difference.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Bye.